myself, my name is O, H to the OV. I used to move snowflakes by the OC. I guess even back then you can call me CEO of the ROC. Fresh out the frying pan into the fire. I be the music biz #1 supplier. Flying in a piece of paper bearing my name. Got the hottest chick in the game wearing my chain. That's right, not DOC, but similar to the letters. No one can do it better. You can blame Shawn, but I ain't invented the game. I just rolled the dice trying to get some change. I done came through the block, but I ain't invented the game. Still alive, it's in my veins. Only God can check me. Only God can check me, so I'm gone.
Play it day one with Game Pass.
The Indianapolis 500 is our mecca. It's our Super Bowl.
It's the largest single-day sporting event in the world, so it's a crowd like no other. And it's a very tough race to win.
I still have butterflies, I still get nervous before the start.
This place chooses the winner every time, and you gotta earn it.
It's gonna be a great day. Let's be part of history.
The Indy 500 is the one event in the world that can take your name to an entirely new level.
It's dangerous, but that's the thrill of it as well.
IndyCar is just so competitive. You make one little mistake, there are 26 other cars out there, and they will beat you.
For 17 races, we got to go out and do our job.
I'll do like anything to win the 500.
I think this season is going to be tough. Real tough.
I get to drive race cars for a living, which I think it's every man's dream, bro.
Win the championship, win the 500. Those are the main goals always. We've actually had a very poor performance at the Indy 500. It's unacceptable.
We are red flag.
We're risking our lives, but it's what we want to do. It's what we love.
Let's go. Let's go.
I just want to beat every out there. I don't care. There's your trailer. Nah.
Boy, it winds up being a 17th for Pato award today, but there's a lot of story to tell from this race after being so quick in practices earlier this weekend. First of all, the contact with Scott Dixon. He wasn't very happy about it. He said, if this is the way the series wants to race, we probably need to change the way I race. Your take on that?
I was on the inside. He decided to stay on the outside, and, well, I'm pretty much alongside him, nose in front of his, or at least alongside his, so... yeah, don't know what to say. I mean, I've been racing Scott for a few years. If he feels like that was my fault, well, sorry you feel that way, but I don't agree. The other issue that I had in turn 8, completely my fault. I feel bad. I let my team down. I let out the amazing crowd that came out today. By the time that I kind of remembered to stop the car, it was already too late, and just kind of squeezed myself. I didn't want to take out Kirkwood, so I just kind of slammed on the brakes and locked the rears and just spun. But yeah, it's been definitely a weekend not to forget. I think there's a lot of positives that we can take out of this weekend, but obviously just disappointed in myself. I don't have to be making those stupid moves. Just not up to the level that I expect from myself.
With the Scott situation, is that one of those situations where you feel like you need to go have a chat with him?
I mean, I'm sure I'll circle back with him either this weekend or the next one, but I'm not going to apologize for that. We're racing, so a lot of the times when I've been in that situation, I kind of just let the guy go, because you know, if you're on the outside, you're more vulnerable to those things happening. So, yeah.
Good news is you get back in the car this week. Indy Open Test coming up. Are you excited for that?
Yeah, I am. This is a race to just learn from and forget. And on to Indy. That's the start of our 500 this year. and then on to Barber, which is one of my favorite tracks.
And the cool thing, I think, Diff, check out the crowd here for Pato. He's going to sign a few autographs. He's going to take some pictures. They're here to support him, even though it was not the day that he wanted.
Listen to them.
Start your
Hello, good evening, and welcome to Drafting the Circuits. My name is Richard Uden. I'll be your guest host for this week's show. Our regular host, Frank Santorowski, is off on assignment this week, so you're going to miss his husky tones, and you're stuck with me, unfortunately, for the next hour. I'd like to firstly thank our sponsors, Forza Motorsport 8, Luis Torres Multimedia, who's on our panel, and also CW's new series 100 Days to Indy, which is now available to view on online, I believe, or on their TV networks, which is an exciting build-up. They're jumping on the bandwagon set by Drive to Survive there to hopefully increase some exposure to the Indianapolis 500, which will be coming in the month of May. So let me quickly go through and introduce our regular panel. We have Levi and Luis Torres. Welcome, guys, as normal. Luis, I'll just give you a couple of minutes to pitch your Luis Torres Multimedia with some exciting news again about the Indianapolis 500.
Yeah, the purpose of Luis Torres Multimedia, albeit is more of local, the Pacific Northwest, especially in the state of Washington, but with me going to cover the month of May at Indianapolis for the podium finish, I also have to keep in mind some financial backing help will come a long way. Sponsorships or donations would be highly appreciated if you go to luisdtorres.com. That is the website that I have where I share my photos. I blog every now and then, showcase. It's more than just a portfolio website these days. It's also showcase the works that I've done. If you kindly would like to donate however amount, it will come a long way, especially during the month of May in Indianapolis, where it's going to be my second 500. Should be the third, but all in all, I'm excited to get back on the IndyCar cycle, mostly in the racing photography. It's been since Fontana in February, so all support will come a long way, and I would highly appreciate it.
Excellent. Well, good luck with that, Luis. We're certainly looking forward to your roundup and summaries from the Indianapolis 500. Some of the photos on your site are fantastic, and I know you've won some awards in recent years, and they're very, very well deserved. There's some fantastic content out there. I'd also like to welcome back a very good friend of the show. Used to be a regular on Drafting the Circuits, but has found fame and fortune in grander places these days. Mr. Seth Eggert, how are you doing, Seth? Great to see you.
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me back on.
You're more than welcome anytime. And also like to take this opportunity to welcome two guests onto the show. Very, very pleased to have Shawn Reap and Adam Semonick. Hopefully I've pronounced those right.
Hey, it's okay. The Semonick's okay. It's a lot better than what I've heard, but it's Semonick.
Yeah, trust me. I'm in the same boat.
Semonick is your mnemonic.
He's made a couple. Well, he's been next to a guy that's made a couple of mistakes on our broadcast.
Oh, so. my partner Milt Lanter Jr. We had a thing for a while. We had a Miltism counter, but that, and every time he flubbed something, I had a counter on the screen.
Thankfully, we don't have that because we could be in. We could run out of.
That's why I stopped doing it. It was a lot to keep up with.
So you guys are a member of the FSB Racing League, I believe, which is I'm not an expert on that. I would admit, but please correct me. It's an online racing community based around the NASCAR 2003 race series, and obviously that's got some legacy content there. I guess you could say, going back 20 years, and it's probably a quite a select but dedicated. Crowd of that. But you mentioned in some of the pre-show that you are moving along to iRacing. But if you want to take a few minutes to sort of give everybody a little bit of a background on what your content you provide, and just give some background on what FSB Racing contains.
Sure. Thanks, Richard. Yeah, the league is, again, FSB Racing, partially cut off by the mic there. Started by some friends in California. Fresno to Shell Beach was what it stood for initially. That just started racing in NASCAR 2003, 20 years ago. The league's been going just as long as the sim has. We just celebrated the league's 20th anniversary. The sim came out 20 years ago as of February, as Papyrus, which became iRacing, used to release them every year ahead of Daytona before they lost the license and Papyrus was shut down. But yeah, the league's been going strong ever since, running most nights of the week. We currently run full series on 5 nights of the week. There are 2 nights that are double headers, and all kinds of current mods, older mods. So we have like 1988 cars. We can go out there, the retro. That's the Friday night. That thumbnail that right there. That's from the broadcasts we do every Friday night. And
the old Aero Coupes.
Yeah. Winston Cup Aero 88 series. I happened to win that race too. It was one of the rare ones I actually drove.
Oh, just drop that in there. We're gonna
throw that in there. I don't get to drive on Friday nights a lot anymore, so it was kind of fun. But yeah, so we put a broadcast on YouTube every Friday night during our seasons. We're currently in an off-season break, but we'll come back first week of May, fresh for season 46. So yeah, we do 3 seasons a year now, 12 races at a time. Points are kept, trophies are sent out, and it's and again, like I said, it's a dedicated community. Has been keeping it going for 20 years. Guys that really know this sim inside and out, that know NASCAR history inside and out. Everybody's there because they're a fan. Everybody wanted to be, Dale Earnhardt or Richard Petty or Ayrton Senna. But reality kicks in, and here we are, just a bunch of middle-aged guys playing race car drivers. But we take it seriously. It's a rules-based league. We've been called the church league before because we got, strict no flaming rules and 2 incident rules to keep cautions under control and stuff. But that's, sort of seeking a structured place. So you're sure that you're going to go out there, you're going to have a good race, you're going to, have a good time, just playing race car driver. And as you noted, we've been going for 20 years in NASCAR 2003, keeping this very old sim alive. And times are moving on, and people are starting to move on to iRacing. So we have dipped our toes in. This off season, we've been running the street stocks, or late models, I forget what they are, and as well as the legacy trucks that they have at iRacing. Some Mazda stuff too has been going on Sundays, so we're dipping into the road course racing. So looking to expand towards the future and just keep it going forward.
Excellent, fantastic. No, and I think you made a point there. A lot of people wrongly still consider the likes of iRacing and R Factor and a lot of some of these online communities as games, and fundamentally they're not. You can go and buy a PlayStation and buy F1 23 or whatever it is and get your little D-pad game controller and play a game, but a lot of these enthusiasts and professional online racing, these are full-on simulators now.
Yes,
these aren't these aren't games. These are really high-level simulation tools, and they keep progressing, and it's incremental steps from I'm sure what you guys are doing through to the professional simulators that the race teams use. They're more of that akin sort of technology to what you consider a game, and I think it's important that difference is maintained and understood by people.
And part of that too is the attitude you bring towards it, into it, if you will. You know, if you're playing Gran Turismo lobbies online, yeah, you're going to get wrecked every single race. Everybody's going to go flying into turn 1 at Monza. I don't know why anybody tries to race that online and pile in turn 1 every time. Yeah, that's the idea of having a league structure and rules in place. You know, rules based leagues. Everybody's there. You know, yeah, we recognize we're not professionals. We are amateurs, but put in the effort. You know, put in the effort for a clean race, and that's what most people are looking for. And hopefully, what we try to provide, we strive to provide.
Yeah,
but the simulators are getting crazy. Of some of them, the motion sims and feedback, stuff. It's evolved so much from the days.
And just real quick, but looking at your league page, there's about 45 people in there. Shawn, I know before the show we were talking and you said you hadn't gotten iRacing yet. So how big is the community? I know it's still a dedicated community and that you're still transitioning from NASCAR racing season 2003 to iRacing.
To clear one thing, we're not transitioning from. We do intend to keep NASCAR 2003 running for as long as it will run on modern hardware. The day it stops running, when we go quantum computers or whatever, or we all die off, who knows? But we're going to keep it running as long as it possibly can. So yeah, that's first of all. I think we currently have about 60 drivers signed up. Attendance range, probably averages in the 15 to 20s on most nights, depending on the series. Some people can only race certain nights. Some people race every night or only like certain tracks. So it's variable. I think we've gotten probably about 10, 15 a night just in these initial tests in iRacing, bringing in some of the people who left to go to iRacing. They're kind of like, oh, FSB is coming here. So we're going over. So that's, it's very much in its infancy. And we hope that just has, more growth potential because that is where the trends are going.
Yeah. No. And also, I think the online communities and the simulation tools have probably taken a big boost in the last 2 or 3 years through the the COVID pandemic. We now saw there was that period when craziness, nobody would go outside, and suddenly we were watching professional race drivers, IndyCar drivers, Formula One drivers, NASCAR drivers partaking in these series and providing a huge exposure to communities such as yourself.
Legitimizing it.
I'm sure that's been a huge boost, not just for yours, but for the whole online community, that's out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's almost legitimized it a little bit as well, I think.
Yeah, that's the same thing. It was also, you mentioned them doing iRacing during NASCAR's downtime between the start of the pandemic and when they switched to their accelerated schedule there in 2020. One of the best things about that was not only that they put sim racing in the mainstream, but for what I also do for the broadcasting on Friday nights, it was fun to watch them make the same exact mistakes I make and not feel so bad about it, have the same problems go wrong in their broadcast of iRacing. So okay, if Fox can screw it up, I can give myself a little bit of a break. But yes, it was a boon to sim racing equipment. Have you seen the stuff that just keeps coming out there? Moza was introduced. Asetek, a computer hardware manufacturer, they make like coolers and stuff. Now they're making sim pedals and wheels.
Yeah.
So yeah, the interest in it really skyrocketed, and also helped the used market because a lot of guys got into it just because they were in quarantine and then sold their stuff off. But it still has a net positive effect on the hobby, if you will, of sim racing. And exciting times.
No, fantastic. And even now we have in the NASCAR Cup Series, we have a multiple winner this season, championship contender in many people's eyes in William Byron. His background is probably pretty unique in the current, Cup Garage. And Seth and Louise, you'd probably correct me, but I can't think there's many others who have taken this route of, the sim racing to get a drive in a Cup team.
In the Cup Series, no. Xfinity, you have Parker Retzlaff. In trucks, you have Raja Karut, Caden Honeycutt, and Ty Majeski. Though Majeski does have a lot of late model starts even before he was on iRacing.
That's some truck series too, didn't he?
Yes, he's currently in trucks.
Okay, yeah.
But
so the question has to be asked, Sorry, carry on, Seth. Sorry.
I was going to say 2311 did hire their former eNASCAR champion to help them improve work in the sim.
Yep.
So the question has to be asked: what are you guys doing? Why aren't you guys out there in the cup ride?
Yeah, let's go.
We're a bit old for that. That's what it comes down to. I'm 45. That ship has sailed. At this point, a driver would be looking at retirement. But actually, it's not as new as you think. Back in 2003, when the sim was new, Dale Earnhardt Jr. had a racing forum, an NASCAR 2003 forum. I have some of his setups on a hard drive somewhere. I traded setups with Denny Hamlin or Martin Truex Jr. because they were active on the forums too. I didn't even know Martin Truex was from New Jersey at the time. I had no idea. I was just like, oh hey, it's the truck mod's out. Anybody's got any setups? So here, try this.
Yeah, not gonna lie. That's how I first heard of NR is through Hamlin, because NASCAR on Speed did a segment on there where you can find online all these years later. I think also Shane Meal was a part of that, but he got into trouble. Like some drivers of today claim getting in trouble for being too aggressive in iRacing, or in that case at the time NR.
Well, I was actually watching a YouTube stream the other day. Kevin King, who now drives for Junior Motorsports in the eNASCAR series, found one of the old Dirty Mo Posse races and was re-streaming it. It was Dale Jr. was running 4th or 5th. Truex was leading. Kevin King was 2nd. Denny Hamlin had just taken 3rd. And a few other notable names from iRacing, Chris Shearburn, and I want to say Brad Davies were also in the race, and other Cup drivers, or now retired Cup drivers, with how long ago it was. But Adam, I know you haven't had a chance to talk per se. I know Shawn.
No, I'm fine.
I know. Well, I was gonna say is I know Shawn isn't on iRacing yet. What about you, Adam?
Not on iRacing. Actually, you guys talking about the pandemic is what got me back involved with it. I did a search and saw some FSB videos. Started off with them actually without a wheel and just using my keyboard. Shawn knows all about that. Got the wheel. I run various leagues. Run at FSB, I run at Carolina Classic Racing and also at Talladega Nights. In the 2003 community right now only. I just, life right now. Don't have the system. Can't just get my life together. So not dipped in the iRacing yet.
Hey, I understand. And for NR 2003, about how many leagues are still active on there? Because I know FTF, which is for the fans, they just moved from NR 2003 to solely iRacing about 2 or 3 years ago, and that was one of the bigger leagues I know, that just based on what it is in iRacing, let alone what was in NR 2003.
Now, I don't know exactly what the count is on leagues. You can go into RLM, the race league manager, and there's a list of leagues in there, but I do, like I said, I run at the 3 leagues. That's the only, I know some more leagues, but Shawn can probably touch more on that base.
Well, yeah, someone on the Facebook NASCAR 2003 community the other day posted a list. I've still got it in my Google Drive history and pulled it up. They counted 54 active leagues based on this list here, which shocked me. I knew of about maybe 10. And what's odd is they listed us as medium, so their league's bigger than us out there doing this apparently. And the thing about RLM, that's a service that took the place of in the old days we would connect it to Sierra when Sierra owned Papyrus and had a constant online matchmaking service. These days you either go by direct IP, or there's RLM, and then what's the other one? NRT. People who rent out the servers have their own little web front end that pushes that over to NASCAR 2003. A lot of them still might just run on direct IP, so you can't really go off of the list showing on there. You can just type it into the game and connect direct to it. So that's probably where a lot of these guys have been hiding. 54 leagues 20 years later. That's incredible. It shocked
impressive.
Even me, who's been here for the whole ride.
and especially on a platform that's probably pretty centric to only one country. It's not like an iRacing which has a global presence. I can't imagine you've got too many people partaking from outside of the US?
Not too many, but we've surprisingly had a few before. I mean, obviously Canada too.
Yeah, we got a lot of brothers up north.
Yeah, we got several Canucks that we let in. Yeah. But we've had drivers attempt to do it from Australia and England and Brazil. It usually just becomes a time zone problem.
Yeah.
A lot of the utilities, like the utility I used to put our ticker up during the races for standings, was made by a German league that ran the sim many years ago. They've since, I think, abandoned it and moved on, but the program still carries on every Friday night on FSB Racing Live. But yeah, that was a German league that was running it. So there's some interest around the world. No, oval racing gets dumped on by people who don't quite understand that that different is not necessarily lesser. You notice
Very
that
true.
An oval is not as simple as it sounds. Yeah, and
No.
just look at Juan Pablo Montoya coming to NASCAR. Yeah, look at yeah, he was good enough to be in the car, but he did not dominate. And this is a guy who almost won a Formula One championship before he got hurt.
Yeah,
he's won Indy 500.
I mean, look at guys like Dario Franchitti who came over
Dario,
as well.
He couldn't cut it in NASCAR.
No. It's a very and I will say I was as guilty as anybody. When I growing up in the UK and working in Formula One and stuff like that, I always sort of turned my nose up a little bit at NASCAR. But when you're in there and you actually get exposure to it and understand the vagaries of it and finer points of it, yeah, there is still a lot of elements that can't be engineered out, which as an engineer I don't like, because I'm not in control, so it scares me. But the margin for error and the margin of gain is so small that's the intriguing part of it. You're working with such small differentials and such small gains that it's a different skill, it's a different task, and it's I really do encourage people that maybe don't follow NASCAR and follow some of these things to take a bigger interest. And some of these sim racing platforms are a great entry to it, especially if you do have that sort of engineering, sort of race engineer mechanic sort of mindset, to understand how these cars can be adjusted, changed. It's an amazing platform to work with. And I'm sure you guys, you go through your setup changes, you create race setups, you create, car setups, and there's lots of things in there which, in open wheel racing you just never consider. So yeah,
and the asymmetry of the car.
Yeah. Well, not in the next gen car. Next gen.
No, we're still on 2003 rules. As far as setups go, we run mostly fixed setups most of our nights. That takes another time factor out of it. So guys who who work a 9 to 5 don't necessarily have time to practice, open setups every week. We have experimented recently with running an open setup for Truck Series. Had some mixed results with that. Got some people to come in who enjoyed running the open sets, because that is another aspect of it entirely. The crew chief, the garage aspect. But we like to say we all have the same crew chief, and that's one of our members, Slim Jim Gately. Makes all of our setups. They're super stable but competitive. They're not pushing like the fast setup default dump truck, but most people can keep it under them. Keeps it fun to drive.
So I do have one question for Shawn and Adam. Who's the better driver of you two?
No
pressure.
I'll go ahead and say right now it's Shawn, because I'm just I got it in back for about a year, and then I had to take almost a year away. I was recovering from surgery, 2 surgeries, and then back into it again, but actually getting better results because I pick his brain and follow him on the track a lot.
I was gonna say it's not a fair comparison. I've been back at it since 2015, and yeah, he's just getting back in, getting his sea legs back under him. Just even got the wheel and pedals hooked back up. But you're doing all right on the bigger tracks. You just got to work on the speedways, and you'll be back in victory lane, no problem, man.
Oh yeah, I just like having fun out there, man. A win doesn't matter. But no, I do follow him a lot on the track. I'll ask him, about pit stops. What hey, what, just just to basically go back and
Pitting.
recap of the race. Yeah, pitting.
Pitting is huge in this style of racing compared to other forms. It's everything at FSB. If you're in the Super Speedway series, there's a lot. We run at 3 times consumption, so we're using the tires and fuel at 3 times the rate of normal. So it makes a lot of pit stops, and we don't tend to wreck a lot in that series because it's people who are like dedicated to super speedway racing, which is another thing that gets dumped on. But it's just a different set of skills. And part of that is pitting, and that makes all the difference. And if you lose half a second on pit road, you're coming out of there, you're losing the draft, you're done. And pit practice was something I worked on hard when I came back, and that's something I know you've been working on too, Adam.
Oh yeah, definitely. Getting some good results too. Hey, I finished 6th at Martinsville over at CCR the other night, so I'm happy.
There you go.
So I got a quick question here. This is fascinating. I am blown away by all this stuff because it is. I mean, I remember when NASCAR 2003 came out. I mean, I was.
That beard wasn't great, was it?
No, and then NASCAR Thunder came. I was more the NASCAR Thunder guy myself, but
it's more the console type, right?
Yeah. Like this is my. So, I'll wear the hat proudly as the old guy in the room, not that very technologically savvy. So I want to watch you guys do racing. I want to watch the Oscar Mike radio card digging around in the corners. Where do I go? Like, do I get on your website or do I hit Twitch?
If you want to sign up for to run, fsbracing.com is the website. We're always taking applications. As far as on the broadcast every Friday night during our seasons, it's right here on YouTube. Actually, I guess we're multicasting this, aren't we? On Facebook as well as YouTube. On YouTube, just look for FSB Racing Live, and there we are doing the Friday night Winston Cup series. You can even pop in the car with me there on that last race of the last season. But usually I'm in the booth with my broadcast partner, Milt Minter Jr. He's the son of legendary independent road racer, Milt Minter from back in the day. He drove some factory Porsche, drove some independent stuff. So he's a big road racing guy, and but still knows NASCAR history. So he's a wealth of racing history knowledge there, and a absolute character. I love working with Milty, and put that on every Friday night during our season. So we'll be back on the air in May.
Okay, and what time does that come on Friday nights in May?
We come on about 9 o'clock.
Okay.
About 9:40 rather. Going live because our qualifying starts at 9:30, so I give them time to qualify, go through their drivers meeting, and then I cut in right in final practice. Yeah, Eastern time. Sorry.
Yeah, Eastern time. Okay, good. Yeah, I mean that's cool, and like I said, you're sponsored by one of our brother podcasts, Oscar Mike Radio with Travis, so that's kind of cool. This is just like I said, this is just the coolest thing since sliced bread in my world. I'm loving this.
In terms of broadcasting iRacing, that is to be determined. I'll have to see. There's things I have to figure out on that one, but for now we're doing the NASCAR 2003 side.
That's awesome.
And I'll be running that the Oscar Mike radio logo and all, missile and all on my car for the foreseeable future, as long as my machine will let me keep running. So we'll mix up some new paint schemes. I'll keep it to about 2 a year.
It's one of the great things too, though. You mentioned system requirements. Even iRacing doesn't have terribly demanding system requirements because it's based on NASCAR 2003. It's the same people that made it. Some of this code still lives on in iRacing, which has led to some problems that is beyond the scope, I think, of tonight. But but NASCAR 2003 itself, it's a 20-year-old game. It doesn't take a lot to run it, really.
Yeah. Excellent. Louise, I don't know if you've got any questions for our guests.
I think that was pretty much the only one I had in mind was where people can find you. But let me toss one real quick. You mentioned the Thunder. Obviously, I was way too young to get it, or I didn't start using it until I entered college about a decade ago, because I realized I could finally work on the laptop. And then once I figure out the driving aspect, it's like, well, obviously created some content then and there. Still trying to figure out to have time to do this one fantasy racing league and all that. But what has been the key ingredient to the longevity of this league? as others come and go, but as you mentioned, been around for pretty much the entire duration of this and this game, what would be the best word? Simulator game.
I don't get offended by the G word, by the way.
I added simulate. I added simulation in there.
To
some
be
people,
fair,
some people that's dirty. It's dirty word.
To be fair, simulator is in the game genre. It's
Yes.
So
the genre of game is racing simulator. So
Yeah,
you can call it a sim, you can call it a game. I'm not going to get offended either way.
I had to pause. So I said, let me toss a simulator because that's the key thing, simulator. But continue.
I'd say it's been the officiating and the dedication of the fellow admins on the team that just ensuring that everything's scheduled and run on time, and we review every replay, looking for rules violations. We have a process of rules everyone needs to follow. Like we mentioned earlier, the 2 incident rule: if you cause 2 cautions or 2 times damaging another car, even if it doesn't bring out a caution, you're supposed to park it for the night so you can race next week. If you fail to do that and we catch it, first time is a warning, and then in the future you might not be racing the next week. And so while it sounds harsh for a game, nobody wants to go out there and run around in a parade of caution laps every week. You don't want to run half the race under caution. It's happened. Because even with 20 guys, if everybody gets 2 cautions, you could still spend the whole night under caution. But because that's in the mindset of the drivers, and they know that everybody's going to be treated fairly in that, they try to put on clean racing, and they know that no one's going to scream and yell at them like an iRacing lobby if they do screw up, because we also expect accountability, a little apology in the forums. Hey, sorry, I got into you. My bad, I screwed up. Oh, hey, no problem, man. We'll go get them next time. So it's the sportsmanship, it's the the rules, consistency, and the camaraderie. I can't speak, talking too long. That's formed over the years. Some of these guys have been here the whole 20 years. They've formed friendships, and so you're out there running like that. You don't want to get into that other guy. You're ready to settle for second rather than wreck your friend for the win. So just keeping it fun, keeping it clean, sportsmanship, fairness, all that sorts of thing. And I think that's been the secret formula as laid out by Jim Ray, our founder, and carried on by Sam Young, who is our current league promoter, not owner as he likes to be called, promoter.
Excellent. Well, thank you for your time, discussing your racing league, and hopefully this platform's giving you a few more viewers or who will be interested to Lee, there we go, number 1.
Yep, I'm in it.
Who'll step in and look at what you guys are doing. Potentially some people who sit at home and still drive on NASCAR 2003 and are looking for like-minded people to compete with. So
hey, there's other leagues too, and they could also probably use drivers. So if we don't fit, we'd be happy if someone anyone driving NASCAR 2003 is keeping it alive.
Just make sure you got the senior citizen league for me, so I'll be good.
I'll be joining that pretty soon.
I'm actually on the young end for our drivers at 45, so I think you'd fit in.
So I think Shawn and Adam, I think you said you're more than welcome to stay on, and please chip in as we go through some of the other motorsport series that we'll be discussing over the remaining half hour of our show. Before we go on to our the 3 main series that we discuss on a weekly basis, I do quickly want to make a comment on the very sad passing of Craig Breen, Irish World Rally Car driver, driving for Hyundai in the World Rally Championship. Part-time this year, was killed last week in the pre-test event, I think, for the Croatian Rally, which is taking place this week. For reading some of the tributes to Craig, a fantastic, likable guy. I did do some work in World Rally about 10, 12 years ago, and those guys are as crazy as they come. Their level of commitment and dedication to the sport is second to none. These guys are driving flat out, 120, 130 mile an hour plus on a corner that's made of mud or dirt, gravel, snow, whatever. They'll only ever see it once in their life. And they're 6 inches from rolling down an embankment, and they really do push the limits of themselves and the vehicles. And I have more respect for World Rally drivers than probably any other motorsport series. And for Craig's passing, it's very, very sad. Time for the motorsport community as a whole. And, we wish the best to Craig's family and the team. It's going to be a very difficult time for them. Hyundai are competing in the rally this weekend, and we wish them all the best. But very, very sad news coming out of Europe in the last week or so. But moving on, as we must do under these circumstances, NASCAR was at Martinsville last weekend for a triple header. And Seth, Louise, if you want to lead off on the truck race, which saw a first for NASCAR.
I was actually there on hand for kicking tires. And yeah, the truck series, they started the race in wet conditions, or damp conditions. It's important to note that the tires are not rain tires. They are wet weather tires meant for light rain or essentially semi-dry tracks. It started without a hitch. There was no problems. Granted, they maybe could have started a little bit sooner, but NASCAR was taking a conservative approach because it was a historic first. They didn't want to have another COTA from 2021 happen. And I can't really blame them in that aspect. But all in all, about 25, 27 laps in, they went from rain tires to slick tires. It was a normal race that was just being affected by rain, and they never put the wet weather tires back on. But the race was ultimately shortened by rain by about 80-something laps. But the thing is, they completed 124 laps. Without the wet weather tires, which accounted for 27 of those laps, they wouldn't have gotten to halfway, and they wouldn't have gotten to the end of stage 2. So they would have had to come back 12 hours later to finish the race. And because of the way Martinsville is, all the truck teams, they would have had to pack up their haulers, leave the track to allow the Xfinity haulers to come in, unload, and then run the rest of the truck race.
Yeah.
And also there are no hotel rooms available.
No.
So it would have been pretty miserable. Yeah. It would have been pretty miserable for the truck teams. Corey Heim won. Granted, the Toyotas were fast in the truck series. I don't know if that was your doing, Richard, or not.
Whoa.
But yeah, the Toyotas were fast. You had Corey Heim, Tanner Gray got a top 5 at his first since Daytona earlier this year. You had Carson Hocevar attempt to intentionally wreck Taylor Gray and fail miserably and be parked for 2 laps. But otherwise, it was kind of a typical Martinsville race, all in all. Louise, what do you think?
I'm gonna keep it very short and blunt because you know how I feel when it comes to those, when it comes to red flags for the sake of having red flags up, and especially when you have a damp pit road. So I'll abstain from that side. I'm just glad they were able to get past halfway. Just simple put. And even when they were on those wet tires, they held their own because people were thinking, oh, they're gonna wreck it in turn 1 or gonna bottleneck it. But no, they held their own. Especially at a track that was about 80% dry, but still, you wonder how much tire wear will factor in. I think Kyle Busch was one of the more vocal ones about it after the race. It held its own quite well, but wish they could have utilized it to its full potential after that.
Yeah,
I think this is a learning phase for NASCAR, isn't it? Obviously, they've got to tread carefully and go, race by race, week by week. And find out what the capability of these wet weather tires are. Obviously, they can run these wet weather tires during tests around the track where they artificially wet the track or whatever it may be, but typically that's only 1 or 2 cars on a track at any given time. When you throw 30 to 40 of these things on there with the amount of spray they kick up, the visibility is going to be your biggest issue with these, I think, far more than grip.
And that was the main concern that they had. the area of the track that dried the fastest was the concrete turns, which that is where they were essentially heating up the tires more than they should.
Yep.
But the other issue and why they couldn't continue, some teams only bought one set of weather tires.
They were only required to buy one.
Yeah. I know for a fact several bought 3 and several bought 2, but a lot of the smaller teams that don't have a lot of money or don't have a lot of funding only bought 1.
Yeah, it's something you don't think about, but those tires are expensive. But
$2,400 a set.
Yeah, you know that's that goes that's a lot of cash for some of these smaller teams. But no, I must admit, I've worked with Corey on a couple of projects, and he's a great kid, and great to see him get back into winner's circle there. So let's hope we can get a few more before the end of the year. But we also had an Xfinity race, and remind me who won the Xfinity race?
Well, let's see.
I think it was some guy in the 20. I think
Joe Gibbs Toyota. Also, it was a car that I'm not sure how much of it's left after he lit the place on fire.
Down. Tore it down.
He enjoyed himself with that one.
Yeah.
Hey, think about think about the product placement. His sponsor was a fire extinguisher company.
Yes.
Either that or the crew chief told him, "Hey, wreck that thing so Tech can't get a hold of the car afterwards."
Whoa.
Little Jimmy Johnson conspiracy there, huh?
We're not Chevy here. Come on.
Well, to be fair, I'm not sure how a burned car can be teched. That being said,
I don't think you can.
That being said, metal, right? I'm also not sure how a burned truck from Coda can be teched. The only thing that happened with both of those that was the same, they pinned it against the wall and went flat out. Meanwhile, Kyle Larson did a Polish victory lap burnout and did not catch on fire.
No,
and parked it seamlessly too.
Yeah, I think in the Cup Series they probably take those things a little bit more seriously than in some of the lower categories. I think they know how they know how that works for them, the teams, and you can probably get away with a little bit more of that sort of stuff at the Truck Infinity Series.
Hendrick might be just under a little bit more scrutiny lately.
Yeah,
for reasons.
Nothing about that.
Yeah.
But
I'm sure they're happy RCR is getting the brunt force of it this time.
I'm sure we'll circle back to that in a moment. But in the Xfinity Series, you also had some social media beef between Joe Graff Jr. and Team Alpha Prime. You had also Sam Mayer give a one-finger salute to, I believe it was Ryan Truex.
It was Truex. It was just a shame also because it also took out Riley Hurst, who was having a career start of his season. I felt like part of it could be experience or part of it having Cole Custer on his side, but it's a shame that both of those guys got ultimately taken out, and it probably going to cost him dearly in the points for now.
And in the Cup Series, let's see what happened. Anthony Alfredo lost a wheel.
Harvick
almost did. And JJ Ely lost brakes. And a bunch of speeding penalties too.
Yeah,
like
Ryan
the pole
Preece,
winner.
I think, who was
Ryan
he
Preece,
was leading
Bubba
them for
Wallace,
laps and then got a penalty.
Martin Truex Jr. There's one other. I can't remember who else.
Is it Hamlin? It's always Hamlin.
It wasn't Hamlin.
Yeah,
for once.
But I was going to say the wheel coming off for Alfredo. That saved Bubba Wallace. That saved Joey Logano. That saved Martin Truex Jr. Because they, after starting the back and ultimately going a lap down, they all stayed out hoping for that miracle caution, and they ultimately got it. And some famous driver returned.
Oh yeah, it's not Josh Berry. I think it was William Clyde Elliott. I think.
Yeah, and he ran about 20th all day. Granted, it was his first race back. He is not walking with a limp, not walking with crutches after breaking his I want to say it was his fibia, the
Tibia.
Yeah, I was gonna say fibia. Thank you. I was a little tongue tied there, but point of the matter is he has some screws and pins in his I believe it was his left knee.
It's the left.
Yeah, but aside from that, you couldn't tell any difference for Chase Elliott walking around, and he was able to squeeze out a 10th place finish.
Yeah,
I mean,
very good.
Yeah, especially in Martinsville.
Yeah, Martinsville, you're working with feet.
Yeah, and don't forget NASCAR drivers, they left foot brake, especially a place like Martinsville. So that had to hurt.
And mind you have to remember, this is only the second year it's a 400 lap race.
Yep.
So imagine if it was a 500 lap race out, because
he'd
had
felt
said,
sore, that's for sure.
Yeah, he had said around lap 350 or so that he felt spent.
Yeah,
These guys are in really good physical
Yeah.
conditioning. That's
especially a guy like Chase, a guy like Chase at the level that he's at, and the what he's achieved. He's as fit as they come of any driver in any series. But
now, two cars were taken back to the R&D center. The 41 Caprice and the number 3 of Austin Dillon, which they found something with the underwing or the diffuser on Austin Dillon's car. I believe it was either illegal hardware or mounting, something along those lines.
Yeah.
Which it was I believe it was a $75,000 fine, 60 points, and a 6-race suspension for the crew chief, which they are appealing. But just to put this into perspective, that's the 8th penalty regarding the next gen this year.
Yeah,
all have been for
very
Chevys.
vocal. Yeah, well, NASCAR have been very vocal in saying that then these cars are a different design and they're not giving as much freedom as they'd like for that. But I think we're at Talladega next weekend, aren't we?
Yes.
Guys? So do you guys quickly want to make a Louise, because the rest of you can say what you like for a pick, and we won't be here to chastise you when you don't come through next week. But Louise, do you want to make a quick pick for before we move on?
I would pick William Byron. Kid's on fire. Figure it out. I think he's got it this week.
Still got to go with the Fords, I feel like. Let's go with Logano in this one.
Logano. And just for the fun of it, who do you guys fancy for this week?
Oh,
well,
go for it, Adam.
Well, actually, I was always a Mark Martin fan, but since he left, I really don't have a driver. But it'd be nice to see that 6 car back in victory lane.
Yeah, big bad Brad.
Brad's overdue, and he's a hell of a super speedway racer.
Yes, he is.
But I don't know. The 2311 car's been good there. Bubba obviously got a Talladega win, but I think Reddick's just been really hot. I think he can snag that one in the monster machine.
Now you just gave the jinx.
No, that's the thing. Yeah, on Friday nights in our league, we have the broadcaster jinx. Whoever Milty and I pick usually has some indescribable woe befall them. So when it comes to super speedways, I don't want to be on the hook for jinxing any of my friends. So what I do is I pull out my phone and I do a Google random number generator and keep hitting it until it gets one of the numbers of the cars in the field and hold that up to the camera.
You're going with Riley Hurst. It is okay. I was just kidding.
Well,
but I don't worry about hurting NASCAR Cup drivers' feelings. They're professionals.
Well, for me, I guess Shawn, we're teammates because over in the Kicking Tires Fantasy League, I picked Bubba Wallace. So nice. I'm going to stick with my pick there.
Really he's good at the plate tracks.
Yeah. If memory serves correctly, should Keselowski win, he'll be second in all-time wins at Dega because he's in a 3-way tie, I think.
He's got
that sounds about right. That sounds about right. And Richard, who are you picking?
I don't have any skin in this.
He abstains.
He abstains every week.
AKA
plead the fifth on that one.
AKA he's picking a Toyota.
Just get my boy Truex into victory lane and we're good.
I mean, I'm not there, so Truex is not going to
everybody. Moving on. So before we jump to our to quickly wrap up the rest of the racing series from this weekend, I've hot off our off our group chat here. I do believe Frank, our regular host, is listening. So yeah, be on your best behavior, everybody. I hope you're doing well, Frank, and it'll be good to have you back on the show next week. A lot less stressful for me. So please come back quickly.
You're doing good, buddy. You're doing good.
You're doing fine. Now it's time for me to take over. I was just kidding.
We look forward to having you back next week, Frank. So we'll move on to the IndyCar races, which we were at Long Beach last weekend. Yeah, over on the West Coast there. And we had a first-time winner, Cal Kirkwood, getting the job done for the Andretti team, having a very, very strong weekend. I believe he got a pole, led most laps, and won the race, I think. So you can't really ask much more for a debut weekend.
And if I'm not mistaken, he is only the third Indy Lights driver to actually win an IndyCar race in the past, 20 or 25 years.
Wow. There's a lot about the Indy Lights series and the NXT series or whatever it's called now.
Yeah.
Let's see. Pato has done it. Renus has done it. Kirkwood. I'm trying to think if there might be a few others, but
there's not a huge number, is there? There's not a huge number. Did Colton Herta win in?
No, that was the year that Pato won the championship.
That was it. Yeah.
18.
So it was, it was a pretty well-behaved race, I think, on the whole. And yeah, I mean, the Andretti team got a 1-2 with Kirkwood and Grosjean coming in second. I think Grosjean felt he had the pace to beat his teammate there if he had the ability to use the push to pass, which he sort of accumulated through the start of the race, and then during the pit stop cycles had to go run pretty conservative on the fuel in the last stint of the race, which meant he couldn't use that banked pass to push to pass which he'd accumulated. So a little bit of a shame there for Rowan. He couldn't really challenge his teammate. But I think that's his second place finish now.
Yes,
he's getting close to getting that win. But congratulations to the Andretti team for really coming back strong. There's been a bit of criticism of them over the years,
especially this
recent
season.
Years. Yeah, they haven't really been on the game. But one thing that did come out in the media, and I don't really want to touch on it too much to give these idiots, a platform. But midway through the race on a pit stop, Callum Ilott came out ahead of his teammate, the Brazilian rookie who I'm afraid I can't pronounce his name.
Agustin Canapino.
Canapino, there we go. Thank you. And he did back up the pack a little bit and cause a little bit of a mess. But he was well within his rights to do what he was doing, and even the whole team came out to defend him. The IndyCar series has come out to defend him. His fellow drivers have come out to defend him. And unfortunately, there's some idiots out there who put some pretty disparaging comments and inappropriate comments on social media, which I don't want to go into because I don't think we need to give these people that sort of platform.
No, me neither. The biggest thing of the whole thing is that. The biggest thing is just be smart about it. I get it. I love blending in just fine. It's just the one of those misfortune things where it was on a restart lap and Canapino was on a different strategy, and then it just
it's racing. It's racing, and there's more important things in the world. So let's move on from that. Is it this weekend? They're racing in Alabama this weekend?
No. We have open tests for the Indianapolis 500 tomorrow and Friday. Barber is next week.
Oh, yeah, man, it's coming up.
It's coming fast.
Excellent.
And if I remember correctly, NHRA was also in action this past weekend.
It was.
With a certain.
Hey, who's hosting this, Seth? Come on,
come on! I barely get to talk about IndyCar, NASCAR.
I'm sorry, but I do want to mention this real quick. Tony Stewart got his first win.
He's
stealing my thunder.
Yeah.
You can't come on the show anymore. Get off the show. You're stealing my thunder.
He's the one with drag cars in his background.
Yeah.
Richard. IndyCar's my all-star.
Just killing me.
Frank, come back. I take back everything I said, Frank.
We could talk about Scott Dixon's worst career
finish.
Hey,
we were good until the last 7 minutes.
We were good. We were good.
So yes, apparently NHRA were in California this last weekend. I think it was California.
No, we're in Vegas. We're in Vegas.
Vegas, Sin City, and appropriately for Sin City, Tony Stewart got his first win.
Yep, he sure it was a good weekend for Tony Stewart Racing because Matt Hagan pulled out his second season in funny car, so that was good. Tony Stewart, the chief owner, big guy in charge, pulled out a top alcohol win, so that was really good. Antron Brown and Top Fuel pulled out a win there, and then Dallas Green stock. So it was good. I mean, I really like the four-way racing concept. It's a lot of fun. There was a bit of talk of some staging duels that happened. Some drivers, Shawn Langdon got hung out to dry in a staging duel in Top Fuel, and there was one in Pro Stock as well. So, but that was the big highlight of the weekend, was the staging duels and Tony Stewart. And then next April 28th, we are going to Charlotte, and we're doing some four-wide racing down there. So we got back-to-back four-wides going on. Richard, I think you said you might swing in there over the weekend if you got time to go check it out.
I might be there too. I might be there too.
And anybody listening or watching in the North Carolina and South Carolina, get yourself down there. It's a cheap weekend.
Yep.
These things, if you've never seen them, will blow your mind. It attacks every sense in your body, and it's phenomenal. It really is. So yeah, if you're looking for a weekend, just get yourselves down there, and you'll become a fan instantly. You'll be blown away by these NHRA cars. They're phenomenal. They really, really are.
I think
so.
Tickets up here in New Hampshire, we had the New England Nationals coming up in June for all 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's like under $200, and those tickets. It includes pit passes. Like you can roam the pits, rub elbows with drivers, and it doesn't cost you a single cent more. You can't do that in NASCAR. Can't really do that in Indy.
Certainly can't do it in Formula One.
No.
Yeah, I was gonna say you definitely can't do that in Formula One. But I mean, for under $200, like you can and there's some big name people. John Forrest. I mean, he's always rolling around on his moped, and you can stop him and get an autograph anytime. So it's pretty cool. I'm jealous of the four-wide. You guys going to a four-wide this weekend or on the 28th, because it's gonna be so much fun.
Yep. No, I've been to the two wides a couple of times. I haven't made it down to the four wides, but certainly looking forward to hopefully getting down there in 10 days or so, and seeing what that is all about. But yeah, no, fantastic. So we're almost we've only got a couple of minutes here before we wrap up. I don't know if there's any other topics that any of you guys want to touch on briefly before we leave.
Just want to say,
go ahead.
Just wanted to say thank you for having me a part of the show. I really enjoyed it. It's nice listening to y'all and with the discussions and everything. I really appreciate it. Really do.
You're more than welcome.
And a shout out to Travis, Oscar Mike Radio, my sponsor.
There you go.
He set this all up for us. So thank you, Travis.
Yep, Travis is a good guy.
But yeah, the only thing I want to bring up about IndyCar, especially Kirkwood, this is a driver that everybody expected to be great. Some people argue he's probably the greatest run to Indy scholar they ever had. He's won everywhere he's been. Some people view his year with AJ Foy a year ago as a throwaway season. I don't feel like it's a fair way to assess it. He learned. Even Michael Andretti said that 1 year helped him probably transitions from a woeful rookie year where he has 7 retirements to just that one top 10 at Long Beach to now showcasing to everybody that he's had it. It's just the equipment being there and also kind of grow. And I think this is not the last time we're going to see Kirkwood in victory lane by any stretch. For Andretti Autosport, they needed this run. You had the damage bill had to be so up there after 2 rounds to have all the Andretti cars be in the mix. Even Colin Herta finished fourth, and Di Francesco kept it in one piece. It comes a long way. Now we'll see how the Indy test goes. As long as they don't make a mistake down there, it'll be even better.
Yeah, and in a way, it sort of wraps around quite nicely to what one of our guests a few weeks ago said. Stingray Rob, who's obviously in his rookie season this year in the IndyCar series, he was saying, your first year is not about creating headlines; it's about learning. It's about getting things done. Obviously, in his first race at St. Pete, he'd have caught up in an early race accident, and he spent most of the race, running by himself. And he said he learnt more in those 60, 70 laps at St. Pete without anybody around him, just going through, working with his race engineers, going through fuel saving strategy, pit road strategies, stuff like that. And you're not having to sort of go in there straight away and win in your first 5 races in the IndyCar series. The teams are really looking and appreciating these young kids that go in there with a smart head on their shoulders. And I call it the Scott Dixon syndrome. You look at what Scott's done and how he goes about winning his championships. That's what they do these days. It's not about pure pace. It's about bringing the car home, top 5s, checking them off week in, week out. And what, come August or September, whenever your season finale is, you're going to be there or thereabouts in that championship, because you got pretty much a different winner almost every weekend. So it's consistency. And I'm really glad that some of these young kids are paying attention to that. And I think some of the other younger kids who maybe aren't could certainly learn from them a little bit. But we are almost out of time tonight. So once again, I'd like to thank our regular panelists and our guests for coming along. It's great to talk to everybody. Hopefully everybody at home watching and listening found it insightful and interesting. A couple of thanks again. I'd like to briefly thank Keith, our producer, and his Sinista1 Productions. Really appreciate everything you do, Keith. You keep us in check every week. We would be a complete mess without you. So thank you once again. All of our sponsors and sponsors we saw at the start of the show: Forza Motorsport, Luis Torres Multimedia, and the 100 Days to Indy program, which will be compelling viewing, I'm sure. As for where you can see us, obviously we've got a Facebook page, YouTube, podcasts, all the usual platforms. I'm not cool enough to know where most of those things are. Hopefully everybody else does. But we're at our hour now, so everybody, thank you very much for listening and viewing tonight. We appreciate it. And come back, Frank, please.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Later.
Thank you very much.
Have a good evening, everybody.
That's good fun.
Thanks for watching Drafting the Circuits. Make sure to follow Drafting the Circuits on Facebook, Spotify, Twitter, and YouTube. Drafting the Circuits is a Sinista1 production.